Hi, you're listening to the Childfree Wealth Podcast. We're your hosts, Bri and Dr. J, certified financial planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
Hey, all you Childfree Wealth listeners. So if you've been around the internet, you've seen like a whole bunch of charts of like, what should you do first or what should you do second? It's called an order of operations. And one of the popular ones you may have seen, and I've seen it, followed it, helped people with, is the Dave Ramsey 7 baby steps. And the thing is, his stuff on debt, he's pretty good. But it all assumes you're going to have kids. And for us, not going to happen. So I've been trying to kind of poke around this and say, how can we create our own order of operations or structure or system that fits child-free folks? And to that end, we have created the 8 no baby steps for child-free people. And, we're just having a little fun with the name of it. But the bottom line is we have decided a way or a path or a plan that you can follow that'll take you from, hey, I got to get my money in shape, do all the right things, to I want to die with zero and not give anything away at the end. Now, a little caveat on that. If you are having kids or don't plan on dying with zero, don't follow these plans. Is that right, Bri?
Yeah, that's accurate. These are for if you plan to die with zero and do not have children.
Yeah, so there's kind of some ahas. And die with zero, by the way, we'll get a little further into it. Doesn't mean literally you're going to have zero money at the end. But the whole point is you're going to spend your money throughout your life, give it away, other things, not pass it on to another generation. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to the 8 no baby steps. No baby step number 1, create a starter emergency fund. That's 1 month of expenses. Now, to know what 1 month of expenses are, you have to know what your budget is. And we're talking about expenses. We're talking about things that keep the roof over your head, basic expenses, keep you alive. We're not talking about having enough emergency fund to get through an emergency. We're literally just talking about basics. You're covered. You're good. Step 2, get out of debt. Now, that's easier said than done. It's much easier to get into debt than out of debt. Tend to follow the snowball method. Works great. But the bottom line is you have to set a priority to get out of debt. And I'm not going to buy into this good versus bad debt and which debt and should I leverage it. Get out of debt. Now, we can have a separate discussion on housing, buying a house. That's a separate thing. But a house is a choice for a child-free person, not a requirement. No baby step 3, build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. That's a kind of a real emergency fund. One where, stuff happens, you lose your job, something happens to your house, you're okay. When you wonder, how do I pick 3 months versus 6 months? Look, if your job's very stable, you're not going anywhere, your life's stable, 3 months is fine. If you're unlucky, like me, things happen, life happens, 6 months is fine. It is kind of a gut. That does not mean 12 months. No baby step 4 is save and invest towards your goals. We have a series of podcasts coming out on investing. You can pick those out. We're talking about simple, passive investing, but it's all towards a goal. For example, if your goal is to file instead of fire, then that's where your investing should go. You might not want retirement to be your goal, or you might have a goal to buy a house. You might not. I don't know, whatever you want. That's the point, is to invest towards your goals. Now, we get in the next no baby steps 5, 6, and 7 kind of get squished together because they're not exactly in order, but I had to pick an order just to make it work. So no baby step 5 is get your insurance right. Disability, long-term care, property, health insurance, all that stuff to protect your money. No baby step 6 is estate planning. Wills, living wills, power of attorneys, in case I die files, all that paperwork. Who's going to make decisions for you? Really important. Remember, as a child-free person, if you don't have next of kin, the systems fall apart. No baby step 7, plan for mom and dad. And now this could be any other family members or elder you have to take care of. But the reality check is we are expected as child-free people to take care of our parents. It's the old, Well, you don't have kids, so you can take care of mom. It's true, it is. And no baby step 8 is die with zero. And really what we're talking about there is how to create a framework so that you're safe, so that you actually don't end up with zero money, but you work on giving and spending your money across your lifetime rather than passing on to another generation. So, recap, 8 steps. No baby step 1, create a starter emergency fund, 1 month of expenses. 2, get out of debt. 3, build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. 4, save and invest towards your goals. 5, get your insurance right. 6, estate planning. 7, plan for mom and dad. 8, die with zero. What do you think, Bri? You were the first to see the 8 no baby steps. What's your reaction?
I think these are 8 really actionable steps for people that are easy to understand and follow, because oftentimes when you're going through your financial journey, it can be hard to know where to start.
Yeah, by the way, the intent is not for the no baby steps to be perfect or follow them exactly, but people ask kind of what plan should I follow? And this is one for child-free people. You know, you can pick whichever recipe you want, whichever plan you want, whichever. And by the way, they're all very similar, like not that far off, but we have different concerns. You know, if you look at the first 3 steps, they're very similar in most of the plans. Basic emergency fund, get out of debt, get a real emergency fund. That's kind of common. Then we start kind of swerving from there. So, Bri, I know you and I have had some debates on some of these steps, so we're going to bring the audience into some of these debates. So the first one Bri wanted to debate when we were working through these, and by the way, Bri's already kind of won on some of these debates, so we'll give her credit where it's credit due. But the first one was a starter emergency fund. 1 month versus more versus less. I know, Bri, you were kind of debating this and fighting with me a little bit about how much emergency fund you should have to get out of debt. What do you think?
I will just be honest right now, we're paying off debt, but we have more than 1 month of emergency fund saved aside because that is not something that I am comfortable with. I would say I have a solid job. My wife, her job, that tends to fluctuate, and I'm not comfortable just going 1 month and having that set aside before getting out of debt. I want to be able to cover a little bit longer in case something were to happen. We just want our butt covered for a while, essentially.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not going to get mad at anyone if you deviate from the steps a little bit. You know, this is kind of like ideal, and then if you have to make a little spin on it, fine. But here's the thing. I get you, Bri, you want a little more safety, but having debt is an emergency. And that's what people miss. You know, whether it's student loans, credit cards, other things, that stuff is stealing from your future, and it has to be priority. Now, if you want to okay, 1 month of my expenses is $3,000 and I want to have $4,000, I don't care. Like a little difference, fine. But what happens is people start saving all this money to an emergency fund while they're paying 20% debt on 20% interest on their credit cards. You're losing.
Yep.
Because your emergency fund goes in a high yield savings account. Right now, gains you 4% or so. But that's not always the case. But your credit cards are killing you. So, I don't know. I mean, look, if you want to go to 2 months of expenses, fine. But if you're getting 2 months and then you're like, well, let me go to 3, now you're breaking the system. You're ignoring the debt. I mean, I've done this with people, and by the way, I don't always win. I'll review their finances and I'm like, you got 10 grand over here in Mercy, take half of that and pay off debt. And their face gets red and they get all mad at me. And I'm like, well, debt's a problem. You need to take care of that. And
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I won't win the battle always, and that's okay.
That's correct. So, you didn't win it with me.
And that's okay. So the other debate that Bri and I had a while back was, should you get out of debt first or invest first? Baby step 2 is get out of debt, because you're going to get a better tax-free, risk-free return on paying off your debt than investing. Now, not guaranteed, but close enough. I mean, if I'm paying off a credit card at 20% interest, I'd have to get more than 20% in the stock market and then pay taxes on it. And there's no guarantee on that.
Yeah. To be very clear, I am anti-credit card debt. So if you have credit card debt, get that gone before you invest. I am not for that. I'm talking about 5% or lower. I'm comfortable with investing while also paying off debt for myself. Jay is like, oh God, please stop saying this. No.
No, I mean, the problem is, so if you look at the stock market returning 7 to 10%, something like that, then you have to pay taxes on it. So if you're getting a 7% return paying taxes, effectively pay off 5% debt. Now, 4%, I don't know. 3, okay, fine. I don't care. If your mortgage is 2.1% and you want to keep it, I don't care. But it's all the other stuff. Like we right now in the middle, we are in July of 2023 when we're doing this. And this is right after the Supreme Court has just said, nope, not helping with student loan forgiveness. Those student loans are 6, 7, 8%. Those got to be paid before you're doing investing. That's kind of the reality check. And then people are like, well, but I got $200,000 in student loans. Well, we got to have a plan for that. Now, by the way, we have other tools. We can talk about the new SAVE program and new IDR programs. Maybe fine. But the debt is handled is the point. Debt is gone. Then we can work on investing. Then we get to no baby step 3, building a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So, Bri, is your goal 3 months or 6 months for you?
6 months.
Why?
Just because I feel a lot safer with that. I know I pretty much base everything off of, okay, worst case scenario, we plan, my wife needs a job. 6 months to 9 months is usually about how long an interview process takes for her career to get through, get training, because training pay sucks. And so that is what I feel comfortable with.
That's fair. In my house, so my wife is a professor, which is as stable as they get. I mean, there's still some risk, but you get down to a tenured professor, the likelihood of you losing your job is pretty low. And fine, be okay with a 3 month. I run my own business. If you're running your own business, it's more of a 6 month. We do 6 months. I'm okay either way. Your judgment, you do what you want to do. Now, here's the thing. Don't come back to me and say I need a 12-month emergency fund. 12 months does not make you safer than 6 months. The other 6 months or whatever you got over 6 months should be invested and growing, because your emergency fund is going to go in a high yield savings account, sit, forget, don't invest your emergency fund. It just sits there. More money set aside is not better. Now, then you get some people, well, I need an emergency fund for my business. Maybe, but that's a different fund than yours. Oh, I want to save for a car. That's not an emergency fund. That is a saving. So you have to separate which bucket works for what. And if you use things like Ally or Chase, they have buckets or systems in there where you can actually track what's your emergency fund, what's your travel fund, what's your car fund, what's your boat fund, whatever it is. But emergency fund, 3 to 6 months. Then we go to no baby step 4, save and invest towards your goals. We got a whole series on investing. Bottom line here is only invest in things you understand. Understanding what you invest in means you understand what you're buying, where it should be held, and how it impacts your financial plan. Now, if you're saying, well, the only thing I understand right now is a savings account, fine, start with that. Then learn about how to invest more. We recommend the book, Simple Path to Wealth. We've got courses on this. You can learn how to invest. You can also work with us one-on-one. We can help you create an investment plan. Simple, passive investments, what we're going to recommend. Low fees. But the bottom line is it has to go towards your goals. So, Bri, once you get your emergency fund, what's your next goal?
Our next goal is investing to hit a certain point. We have a certain number we want to hit, and then it'll be a house.
Okay. Which the investing comes first before the house?
Yes, because I think we're going to be super close to hitting that number by the time we're out of debt anyway. So I just want to hit it and be done and be like, okay, let's go towards the house.
Okay. By the way, which goals you want? I don't care. You pick your goals, your life goals. Remember, as a child-free person, you have more flexibility and you can say, yes, I want a house. No, I don't. I want to move. I want to buy a plane. I want to buy a boat. I want to travel. I want to, whatever you want. Set your goals, make progress. Because this is where people are like, well, do I have the right money by the time I'm 45? I don't care, because you're measuring against other people that don't matter. Measure against you, your goals, your purpose. Bri wants to buy a house? Great. Somebody else wants to rent? Great. It doesn't matter. Now, there are other plans out there that say, you got to buy a house, pay it down. That's an option, not a requirement. There are other ways to get exposure to real estate besides buying a house. It's up to you. No baby step 5, get your insurance right. Now, I struggled a little bit with this because I kind of want you to have disability insurance earlier. And by the way, if you get it through work, it's really cheap. Get your disability insurance set up earlier. But if you haven't by now, you got to do the defense. Disability, long-term care. By the time you're mid-40s, you need to have money set aside or a long-term care insurance policy in place. If you're later in your 40s, we need to figure it out. It's okay. You're not like in trouble because you didn't get it done by now. But we also need to make sure like property and casualty insurance or renter's insurance, umbrella insurance, all that to make sure to protect your money. Because I don't know about you, but I've seen people in the U.S. sue for some stupid stuff. And if they slip and fall on my property, and next thing you know, they got $1 million lawsuit against me and I don't have insurance, I'm out of luck. Or, the other day I was driving back. We went away for the weekend, driving back, and this person dead stop in the middle of the road, 55 miles per hour. And I don't know how I didn't hit him. But I would have hit him, he would have hit the car in front of me, and I would have been responsible for all of it. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure your insurance is set right. But we also do steps 5, 6, and 7 together because these are all kind of defense. On the insurance, Bri, you've seen a bunch of clients kind of working through this. What do you think you found the biggest thing that people have either had off or need to improve?
Usually homeowners insurance, people are underinsured on there. Another simple thing is identity theft insurance or a cyber policy to help protect yourself in case your identity is stolen. That is relatively inexpensive. I think I pay like less than $25 a year for it. So that's something real easy. Or just not necessarily understanding their health insurance and whether or not they have a high deductible plan, and you can get an HSA with that, or if they have a lower deductible. Those are the primary things.
Yeah, and you'll also notice I didn't mention life insurance in here. Why? Because probably you don't need it. If you haven't seen it yet, pick up, we'll include in the show notes the episode with Anna and Grant. And they went to get some disability insurance, walked away with 5 or 6 quotes for life insurance because that's what people sell. We need disability insurance as child-free folks more than we need life insurance. And we may not need life insurance at all. No baby step number 6, estate planning. So this is all the paperwork. Wills, living wills, power of attorneys, all that. The hardest question here is often, well, who's going to make the decisions for you? And that's one that I'm working with a couple companies trying to figure out some solutions on. More to come there. But you need to find somebody that's willing to be your executor, your medical power of attorney, and your financial power of attorney. That's people that make decisions for you when you can't. And you need to have that paperwork now. Whatever your age is, now. Why? Because if you go to the hospital right this second and you can't talk, they're going to go, well, what's your next of kin? I don't know. And that's one of those kind of weird ones in there. And the fourth kind of paperwork is either an in case I die file or I love you file, whatever you want to call it. It's like where all your accounts are, where all your information is, everything like that. Now, Bri, I know you have all your paperwork done. What was the hardest part of it?
All the legal paperwork wasn't that difficult for me. It was very straightforward. I'm also 25, so hopefully I'm not going to die anytime soon. So it wasn't like a impending doom when I did it. But I did a complete funeral plan too, with every single thing that I want happen and all those plans. That was the hardest part.
I just want a Viking funeral. Put me on the boat, light it on fire, and push me out. No, you're not allowed to do that. But it'd be fun.
Yeah.
The reality check is you can do the paperwork. We recommend a service called Trust and Will, trustandwill.com. We get nothing for it. It's just a simple fill in the blank, self-serve paperwork. And it tells you how in your state to notarize it or witness or whatever it is. You can change it at any time, but you need to have something on file and you need to give it to people who are going to make the decisions for you. Like the person that is your POA or your executor, other things like that. No baby step 7, plan for mom and dad. So this is the one, I'm amazed by how many people have this issue in the child-free community. And I'm also not. Because, I've been taking care of my mother since I was 16 in different ways. She's been disabled for most of that. And it's hard. It really is. And I don't think we get enough credit as a child-free community for handling this. But the bottom line is you need to set some boundaries for what you're willing to do or not, and then create a financial plan for it. Like helping your mom with all the estate paperwork or making sure their finances are in place and making sure they have long-term care insurance and all that stuff you did for yourself for them. And I have people go, well, I'm not going to have to deal with it. Cool. Then you could check off this step and say, my parents aren't around. I'm not taking. Cool. For everybody else, it's like, well, are they going to live with you? Are you going to pay for it? Are you going to? I don't know. And I will tell you, it's much, much easier to handle when you have a plan for it. Versus, oh, mom slipped and fell and broke a hip, and next thing you know, you're trying to scramble. My mother's 1,200 miles away, and I had to do this. She actually ended up in the hospital. My sister calls me, and it was pretty rough, and got in the car and drove 1,200 miles. I'll tell you, that's a lot of driving, but you got to do it. Because I didn't have, I pick up this plane ticket or whatever else I got to do. Sounds simple, but you got to have it in place. So, Bri, I don't know, probably a third to a half of the people we worked with have some type of thing they need to take care of for mom and dad. Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest tip you would give?
Start now, because it'll be much easier to do it, especially if your parents are healthy. That's a great time. If they're not, then you're just going to have to more dive in the deep end. But starting now and getting ahead of things will make it a lot easier versus when you're in a crisis, because that is hard.
That's fair. And the last no baby step, number 8, is die with zero. Now, if you haven't read the book, read it. We also have a podcast that we just did a book club on this. But really what he's talking about is the combination between time, money, and health. And how do you leverage those to, make the most of it? Now, I simplify this a little. I'll ask child-free people, do you care how much money you pass on to the next generation? And 9 times out of 10, they go, nope. Okay. Well, then let's change your financial plan. I don't mean you're literally going to die with zero, because that's scary to run out of money. That's not my point. But my point is, you don't care about where it goes afterwards. Like, my nephews get what's left over. If they get 10,000 or 100,000, that's fine. If they get $1 million, I made a mistake. That's where most people go, oh, that makes sense. So what that ends up happening is we actually can change the trajectory of our net worth. Rather than going up always, we need to come back down at some point. By the way, that takes reprogramming of your brain. And that actually is a challenge. I spend probably just as much time talking about spending money as saving money. But the die with zero, to protect yourself, we do 3 things. 1, we have a plan for long-term care, which, by the way, should have taken care of in no baby step number 5 anyway. 2, we put off Social Security till 70. And that's really so we have that money at the end. And we could have a separate discussion. Bri's 25. Social Security might not exist by the time she's there. Fine. That's why we do step number 3, which is little cash cushion. Put aside a little bit of money. That way you don't run out completely. But then you got to make a plan to spend your money. And I'm amazed by the amount of times I'll meet people in their 30s and 40s and be like, okay, cool. If you go to work tomorrow, all the money you earn is going to an estate you don't care about. And they'll push back at me and get mad at me, and that's okay. But they'll show them the math. And I'm like, it's all going to your estate. Well, but what do I do? They say, well, I don't know. What are your goals? What do you want to do? This we call the child-free midlife crisis. Your personal, professional, financial goals. Then what? I don't know. We figure that out. And that's one of those things that changes, because the end goal is different. It changes the steps before it. And that's part of the intent here. What do you think, Bri? Are you dying with zero?
I am getting closer to that. I'm still... We have some things that we want to do, but I know we could just do that when we're alive. But yeah, getting closer.
This is one of those debates people go, well, I don't really want to die with zero because I want to give to whatever. And I'm like, how about you give to them during your life? They're like, huh? I'm like, if you give during your life, you can see both the benefit and you get a tax benefit if it's for a nonprofit.
Okay, so we have a very specific thing we want to do, but I don't want to see it. It would be very cool, but I don't want to see it happen.
Yeah, fine. Put that in your state if you want. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'm not going to judge. But I think it's the mindset of more of, hey, at some point, you're earning money you don't care about. And that's hard because everything else says you just keep earning, then you retire, then you pass it on, and that's the assumption. Well, if you don't have a next of kin you're worried about passing it on to, it shouldn't be a priority. Now, Somebody's going to listen to this and go, well, that's selfish. No, it's my damn money. Okay, I get to spend it however I want. I spent the time earning it. I get to give it to whoever I want. I get to spend it however I want. I get to bless people I want. My choices. You don't get a vote in my money. By the way, they don't get a vote in yours. I don't get a vote in mine. Even when I work with clients, all I do is I hold up a mirror and say, this is what you said you want to do. And they go, yes. Well, then let's do it. And by the way, there's always a moment kind of like, can I really? Yeah. That's the whole point. When you're getting to know baby step 8, it's what do you want to do when you grow up? And that way, it has nothing to do with age. It is just, what do you want your life to look like for the next 40 years? And by the way, I don't know that I have all my answers. I want to get a boat and travel the world, but then what? And what happens if you've, I don't know, gone around the world a couple times? Then you get bored? I have no clue. But I have a plan for now, and I'm working it through. Where I'm going with this is the whole point of the 8 No Baby Steps is it follows a child-free life plan, not the standard life script. It has taken out a lot of the stuff that you see that you're normally expected to do and built in a lot more flexibility. One problem with that, you have to figure out what you want to do. I'm not saying you have to do these things. I'm saying here's how you do them in order so you can have your best life. But like it says, invest towards your goals. Is that financial independence, live early? Is it retiring early? Is it starting a business, going back to school? I was reading something the other day. Somebody's like, well, my husband is just going to school full time forever and never doing anything and gets a graduate assistantship. I'm like, awesome. If I could get that deal, I probably would too. Like, yeah, I'll be a permanent. Cool. Whatever your goals are. And that's the hard part with this plan, is figuring that out. That's why if you want help, we actually offer a service we call life financial planning for that reason, because it's your life and your finances. You figure out your life first, then your finances, then your taxes. If you want to dive deeper into this, we have launched a new course. It is free, like no cost. You don't pay for it. You just sign up for our mailing list. You got to sign up for the mailing list. All right, come on. I got to get something out of it. But there is a now 8 No Baby Steps course, and you can get it at childfreewealth.com/8 steps, or just go to our website. It's on there. We got the links below, and we dive deeper into each step and give you some tips and tricks on how to do it, things to read, and things to do. That way you can figure it out. We also have our diving deeper courses where you can actually get group sessions and a one-on-one and all that if you need it. But bottom line is, you can follow these steps on your own and do pretty well.
That's all for this week's episode of Childfree Wealth Podcast. Be sure to follow Childfree Wealth on social media, email us at podcast@childfreewealth.com, or visit our website, www.childfreewealth.com.